Okay, so now a quick recap what we did till now. So this is our graphical user interface layout, and we did a simple encryption, and we did a simple decryption. So till now we have done this. So now we will start with creating our main file, and we will be combining all these encryptions in one encryption decryptor in one. So first of all, let's create a new file, and let's name that rans. Okay, so now we will be creating our main files here. We will be implementing all our logics here. We will be creating all our functions here. So now, before that, in this part, we will initialize and set up our environment. This involves importing necessary libraries, defining utility functions, and configuring global constants and logging setup. These steps are essential to ensure that our script runs smoothly and can handle all the encryption and decryption style effectively. Okay, so let's start. Part one, initialize and setup. S- And then pad, we will import pad and pad, and then we will be putting ID and date time. So here we have imported all the necessaries libraries for handling. We imported the system and OS request for waves and date and time, and we imported UUID for creating our unique machine IDs, and we use Tinkertailor, and we use PL for importing images, and we use JSON as well as like to get all this. For example, if you don't have this one, so what you can do is you can simply type the command pip and install, and you can type any of the modules. So for example, it's like request, so you can type like that. So yeah, as I have already this one, so before trying to execute this program, or before trying to do this, just you just go here and go to your command prompt usually, and just type there if any of the libraries are not imported, so please install that. So before importing you need to install that libraries, and the command for that is pip install. So now moving forward, so we will start by defining a utility functions that get the resources path. This helps in locating files and ensuring that our script can access all the necessary sources. So, so now here, what we did is, so here what we did is in this step, we defined a resource path. So we defined the functions, utility functions to get the resource path. These functions will be useful throughout all our script for accessing various resources. Okay, so now before we create a functions to ensure that the time directory exists, this directory is used to store state information for our timer. Now let's start. Ensure time directory exists. So now in these functions, the time directory check is now in place. This ensures that our time related files have been properly located. So now in our next step, we will also define a function to load the machine IDs from a predefined locations. So this ID is very important for tracking and managing the encrypting processes. So now let's start. Drive a D in A, B, C. So we are defining this drive and we are defining the OS part. Now we are defining global constants. It's for termination key. Is So now here you can see, so we have defined the functions to load the machine ID, and what it does is it will try and search the machine ID, try to load the machine IDs from these drives, and the machine ID is in the form of text, that is it is a machine ID that takes. So whenever the machine ID is loaded, and it will provide the machine ID loaded from, so it's the machine ID path and the machine ID, so it will show that. And at here we have defined the global constant, that is like this is the termination key for our primary key, that is we have defined that as a bingo, and this secondary termination key is used, the secondary termination key is used when we try to stop the deleting process when our time. So for now let me show you this GUI, and okay, let's run this. So here it goes. Explain here. So this primary termination key, this key is defined, is used when we try to close these applications. For now, if we try to close it, it will close because we haven't defined this, we haven't implemented this. But when after our program has been successfully done, so when we try to close this one, it will ask you the key, password to close the application, and that one is this. And this is a secondary termination key. Secondary termination key is when your time becomes zero here and you don't have much more time left, and it becomes zeros and it start to delete, and all the deleting process will show here, the log will show here. So to stop that, it will promote window. So it will ask you if you want to stop it, then you have to provide the key. That is secondary termination key, and that password is the stop. And this one is the icon and the logos. So in our next step, we will ensure that the time directory exists at the start. So let's start. Start and share time configuration. Let's try and uh, to talk and the password will be for this moment max September days delivery 5. So explain you this code. Okay, so we what we did here is we ensured that the time directory exists when we load our application, or sorry, when the encryption process has been done and the file loads the decryption process. So what it will do is it will first ensure that if the time directory exists or not. The time directory, this is the folder inside it. It will create the time stakes as I showed you here. You can see this one time status. So in this status all the times are stored, the live times are stored. For example, if it's 5 minutes, for here, as you can see, the delay time is like 5 minutes, right? It's like it's when it is 5 minutes, and it will record all the time here, and it will start countdown, and every time the count time is counting down, it will store here. So at here we have defined a drive. So we are defining to encrypt E and F here, and you can go there and you can make it or the drives as well as. So for now, we just simply made it E and F drive. We want our program to encrypt these files, these directories, and E and F directory. We want to encrypt our files on this both directory. Okay, so and the next one is the extension. Extension to encrypt the files. You can add another extension as well as I have just added few of this extension. You can add as much as extensions you want, or other extensions like MP4 or WAV files or anything else. And so this is the password provided. It is not the password for decryption, but it is the salt which our encryption used this password for making the strong encryptions. So, and this is the dashboard URL. So, as we told earlier, our main key will be sent to a remote server, and the remote server location will be held here. The URL, that specific locations where on which the key will be sent will be added here. As for now, we haven't created that, so we just added this localhost for just now. So in near future, we will download XAMPP and we will create our PSP applications. And at that time, we will be putting this that URL on which that the key will be sent. And this is the max attempt. It's like 10 attempts, and is the time delay is 5 minutes. So now we will configure the logging to capture the detailed information about the script execution. This helps in debugging and monitoring the encryption and decryption process. Now let's start it. as we have finished, so now logging is now configured. This will allow us to track the script activities and troubleshoot any issues. So for example, so when our files are encrypted and when our program executed, it will create a log. It will create an encryption log text. So at there we can see all the files, all the attempts, and all the mirrors, all the issues. Like if there is any issues, we can see there. If there is all the encryptions happened, we can see at that logs, and if the decryption process, we can see there. So basically what we did is we created the log text so we can see all these debugging and all. So we have completed our first part. So let's see what we have done here. So at our first section, first part, we imported all our necessary libraries. That is system request, JSON, and UI ID for unique machine IDs, ticketers, and we set up the utilities functions to the resource parts, and we ensure the time directory exists, and we set up functions to load the machine IDs, and we define the global constants, and we ensure the time directory exists, and we set up the login form, and we just define the directories, drivers, extensions, and so yeah, in the first part of our script, we successfully set up our environment. We defined utility functions, ensure the necessary directory exists, and all the machine loads, the machine IDs. Additionally, we have configured the global constants, set up detailed login. This foundation allows us to proceed with the confident knowledge that our environment is properly configured in our first part.